My dear Earth friends, this is Rakak speaking. I greet you in peace and love. Yesterday I finished teaching the decisiveness class to Ashta's council. As mentioned in my previous message, Rakak. Yes, Ashta is indecisive. That was fun. They'll go deliberate, and within a few weeks, they'll formulate a plan. Quite possibly this channeler will channel Ashta to announce that plan then. I don't know exactly when they'll make their decision, or what they'll decide. They could decide, we'll take action whenever certain markers or a certain level of consciousness has been reached. And in that case we can give you a rough time frame but not an exact month. Action in January 2026 could still happen, but ultimately that was just Inostri making a guess, and she's not a decision maker in our society. The official position of the Galactic Confederation is that we've aborted the November 2025 plan, and no new plan has been decided upon. But I do expect that whatever their plan will be, they'll stick with it, and there won't be last-minute delays anymore unless absolutely necessary. That will have been the value of my class. That said, Ashta's council took the responsibility to go and self-develop, in this case by taking a class under me. It would feel unbalanced to me to teach that class, and not reach out to you and invite you to take more responsibility too. Now yes, I do recognize that most of you have little formal power. You can't order the army to go and arrest the bad guys. Frankly, the Earth people who do have that kind of authority should give that command. Still, I want to get out of this mindset that we're helpless, that we have no choice, and it's exclusively other people who need to change and step up and fix things. Technically, one fully enlightened Earth human could liberate Earth. I get that this isn't a realistic expectation or burden to place upon you. Still, most likely you could take more responsibility than you are currently taking, in your personal domains and in your own neighborhood. This doesn't mean that you need to single-handedly go liberate Earth, but perhaps you could be doing more than you are currently doing, to better contribute your piece to the overall solution. Let's go through the areas of responsibility that you have, from smaller and less ambitious things to grander things. Responsibility to decide what do you honestly want out of the rest of your life. I invite you to reconsider possible earlier answers you might have given. Maybe those answers were true then, but are they still true now? I invite you not to give an answer just because of societal expectations. If you don't care about buying a house, then fine, you don't have to pursue that. And in that case, you should explicitly give yourself permission to not pursue buying a house. Take that pressure off yourself. At the same time, I also invite you not to avoid giving certain answers out of despair. If you actually want to own a house and start a family, then say that, even if part of you thinks that it's too hard to accomplish in the current economy or in your personal situation. And obviously, if you decide you want a house and a family, then that can be your goal even if you can't accomplish that goal within a year. Goals can be longer term. If you genuinely want something, then it is your responsibility to aim for that. Even if it's ambitious, well, if you aim for the moon and miss, you'll still land among the stars. Or in other words, even if you try something ambitious and fail, usually that still leads to more personal growth and less regret than not having tried at all. Plus, taking action, even if you fail, may lead you to new possibilities you hadn't considered previously. Your goal doesn't necessarily need to be world-changing. If your sincere goal is just to have a happy, thriving family, then that is a wonderful goal. If you can connect to your soul, I invite you to ask it what it wants. You may want to adopt your soul's goals as your own. You can also ask your soul to show you images of possible future versions of yourself that reach their goals, to get motivation and some idea of what that looks like. Just keep in mind that those images are merely one possible future, and which future actually manifests depends on your free will choices. I invite you to prioritize. If you truly wish to become excellent at something, or to make a great contribution in some field, then you probably need a whole lot of time and energy focused on that field. And you probably can't take on too many other things. Prioritizing first and then actively pursuing those things will probably lead to a better outcome than trying to do everything at once. If you try to do everything at once, likely some things will just fall away or fail because you don't spend enough time on them, and that way you have far less control over what you do and don't achieve in this life. Likely your soul really wants you to do one or two specific things in this life, and probably you really enjoy a third thing and you need that third thing to remain happy. But you may not be able to juggle much more than that. So maybe you need a relationship to be happy, and your soul wants you to be an energy healer or whatever. And sure, meet your needs. Move your body, visit friends and family, do what you need to do to maintain your life. But honestly, you probably shouldn't have much more on your plate than something like this. If you try to do much more than this, you probably won't actually become the transformative energy healer your soul wants you to be. Or perhaps your relationship fails due to lack of quality time. Some of the greatest people in your history were pretty much consumed with just one or two things, and that's it. And if you want to argue that some specific genius contributed to lots of different fields, yes, but many of them also never married. Da Vinci never married. Tesla never married. Newton never married. Now I'm not saying that marriage is bad, but I am saying that prioritizing is good. Obviously people are different. Maybe your path is to be a generalist, or maybe you're unusually energetic and stress-resistant and you genuinely can do more things at once, and do them well. However, most people should choose just a few things and prioritize those. A common Earth perspective is that the most important thing is your own happiness, and that happiness comes from doing a little bit of everything and from doing things that are straightforwardly fun in the short term. That's one perspective, but that's not the only possible perspective. Another perspective is, screw that, Earth is metaphorically on fire, so it's all hands on deck time. You're all connected. So go and take responsibility. Thinking that you're just going to individually optimize your own life is separation consciousness. Plus, if you highly prioritize your soul's mission, then sure, that's probably not optimal for your happiness and comfort in the short term, but it will very likely make you happy in the medium term. If you don't know what your life's goal should be, just do various things that seem useful or rewarding or exciting or like it will grow you as a person. You'll probably find something that clicks for you that way. Or if you feel like you are drowning right now, then it can also be fine to just formulate the short-term goal of stabilizing your life and possibly dealing with certain practical problems. Then once that's accomplished, you can come back to the question of, what do I want? Even if your most honest answer is that there's nothing you want out of this life anymore except meet galactics. Sure, we'll happily meet you in due time, but if you actually want to go live on a galactic spaceship or a galactic world permanently, that will only be allowed if you've done a certain amount of self-development work. So then self-development work may be important to meet your goal. Similarly, dating galactics is also going to require that you've done a certain amount of self-development work on your end. Don't automatically assume that you won't be able to date a galactic. Earth humans have qualities that some galactics very much appreciate, such as standing for the light on a dark world. Plus you might have a galactic twin flame or soulmate out there. However, also don't automatically assume that you will definitely be able to date a galactic. Some galactics are open to dating Earth humans but most aren't, and probably your level of consciousness is substantially lower than theirs on the whole, although you may be more advanced in certain aspects. Although if you're a woman, you're always free to join my harem. Bonus points if you're not too thin or small, because then I don't have to worry as much about accidentally breaking you in half during sex. You humans are all so fragile. This harem offer is a joke, unless you're actually up for it. Then it's not a joke. My girlfriend might not approve, but really, wouldn't it be cultural oppression to deny a lizard his harem? Anyway, it is your responsibility to decide what your life's goal is, or at least what your goal for the coming period is. Responsibility to de-stress. It's your responsibility to avoid excessive stress as much as you can. Yes, sure, some stress is unavoidable. Sure, some periods of stress are unavoidable. Life happens. But I invite you to get out of the victim mindset, and I invite you to get out of the mindset that you must do things perfectly. You can't avoid all stress, and you can't avoid sometimes being stressed. But for example, what you can do is reduce or avoid mainstream news or political commentary or, look how horrible the world is, type of broadcasts, if those stress you out excessively. No one actually benefits if you consume content that stresses you out and that doesn't directly impact your life, and the vast majority of news and political arguments don't directly impact your life. If you need alone time to recharge your batteries, then it's your responsibility to make sure you have enough alone time. And then don't fill your alone time with unnecessarily stressful activities. If you have stressful or cognitively demanding hobbies, consider reducing those somewhat during periods where you're already stressed out. If practical situations stress you out, fix those situations. Investing a bit of effort can be very much worth it to fix annoyances. If certain thoughts or emotions keep coming back and stressing you out, address those. For example, via the onion healing method linked at the bottom of this article. If a person in your life repeatedly tells you that they're stressed out or upset because of one specific thing, then it's your responsibility to tell them to go deal with that specific thing. This can mean that they fix a practical problem. This can mean that they have a tough conversation with someone. Or it can mean that they introspect and feel their emotions so that those emotions don't keep coming back. It's completely fine for someone to vent once or twice, but if they keep venting about the same thing, then they either need to take some practical action, or they need to actually go deeply feel their feelings. Also, if you walk and thoughts or emotions come up, then you are processing those thoughts or emotions, and this is useful, even if you're not mindfully present in the moment. If you don't resist them and don't judge yourself, and you just let yourself think those thoughts and deeply feel those feelings, then you will process them and have a slightly clearer head in the future. You may have to allow and deeply feel those feelings a few times before it's processed, but it is helpful, and hence you don't need to feel bad that you're not being mindful or relaxed at that moment. Responsibility for your own well-being. It's your responsibility to work on having good habits and to work on meeting your needs and to work on nourishing and integrating your inner parts as much as possible. Again, I invite you not to jump into the victim or the "I can't" mindset. Sure, it would be nice if some external savior bailed you out. However, probably you actually can fix your own problems, even if it doesn't feel that way. Yes, it may be hard, yes, it may take time, but likely you can do far more than you think you can. Likely you can endure the possibly tough road ahead. Perhaps your mind says that you can't, but that doesn't mean your mind is actually right. You perhaps cannot fix all your routines and all emotional pain overnight. However, by consistently putting just a little bit of effort into working on your psychological health and routines, they will improve over time. If you put in just a bit of effort every day, then 6 months from now you may be shocked at how much better your life is. Sure, this doesn't fix your problems now, but it's still a better option than the alternative options that are actually within your control. And frankly, it is your responsibility to do your best to have a good life so that you can then go fulfill your goal and finally be happy. You're a citizen. You're a member of the Earth Human Collective Subconscious. It's your responsibility to go do your part and contribute and fix your own stuff, because your life affects everyone else. As a small tip, if you eat a dinner that's heavy or late in the evening, then that can make your sleep less restful because you'll still be busy digesting dinner as you go to sleep. This channeler is actually experimenting with eating cooked food for breakfast and lunch, and only having a substantial amount of fruit for dinner. That may not work for everyone, but that's certainly one way of keeping your dinner light. Plus, eating high amounts of carbs, along with small amounts of fats and proteins, is what makes the average human healthy and clear-headed and feel good, although there is a large amount of diversity in humans. The whole carnivore diet idea, where you eat exclusively meat and animal products. That's how reptilians natively eat. Professional bodybuilding? That's how reptilians look. Striving to become more powerful and rich and in control? That's what reptilian men do, and what reptilian women are attracted to. Focusing on your looks? That's what reptilian women do, and what reptilian men are attracted to. Responsibility for your relationships. Sure, other people may be annoyingly flawed, but it's still up to you to take responsibility for your relationships, both romantic relationships with your partner, as well as non-romantic relationships with others. Maintain good relationships. Some relationships are worth having. They just require some communication and investment and quality time together. If a relationship is bad and it can't be fixed, then it may be time to give it up. At the same time, realize that life isn't a Disney story. Just because a person and a relationship are flawed, doesn't automatically mean that kicking that person out of your life is the best choice. For example, if your parents mistreat you, then yes, it may be best to cut off contact with them. But if your parents are merely annoyingly asleep, then it might be best to maintain some level of contact with them, because they're still your family. I'm not saying you need to visit them often, but perhaps visit them every once in a while. Sure, that romantic partner of yours probably most likely isn't perfect, but being alone sucks too, and other potential partners are flawed in their own way. You can't just say no to being single and also say no to anyone who is actually willing to commit to you. If you have children, you will damage them by initiating a divorce. Obviously, there is a level of dysfunction at which it is best to terminate the relationship, both for yourself and for children you might have. On the other hand, feeling unhappy in the moment might, depending on the circumstances, not be a good enough reason to terminate a relationship. Maybe the real answer is to look inside and work on yourself, to heal, to find a purpose, or at least find a good hobby. Or maybe the answer is to communicate better or otherwise work on your relationship. Your mind tends to want to cling on to narratives that make you feel good even if they're wrong, and also reject truths that don't feel good. You know, like how average people believe all kinds of nonsense and fervently deny the truth if you tell them that. Similarly, if you don't feel happy while being in a relationship, your mind might present you with a story that is very neat and that aligns everything nicely. My partner changed, and that's why I'm unhappy, and the relationship can't be fixed, and divorce is the best thing both for me and for the kids. And who knows, maybe I'll meet an amazing new partner sometime after my divorce. But just because your mind tells you that very neat story, or tells you some other story, doesn't mean that story is actually true. Thoughts you have might just be fabricated narratives meant to make you feel good. Also, if your mind tells you you don't have a choice, well, you do. You always have a choice. If your mind puts a label on a thing, don't immediately accept that label as being true. So if your mind labels your current relationship as bad and then tells you people should get out of bad relationships, then yes, the second statement is true, but is it actually true that your relationship is bad? Maybe it can be a fine relationship if you two communicate a bit better, invest in the relationship a bit more, if you two put some more effort into making the other person happy, etc. Don't believe everything that you think. Be careful not to label your in-the-moment emotions as objective truth. Because if you feel a certain way, that can indicate that the external situation is intolerable, but it can also mean that the real problem is some internal pain that you haven't dealt with, and then the actual solution may be to look inside rather than cut off contact with someone. Of course, there is a level of dysfunction at which divorce is the appropriate answer. But overall, I think Westerners in 2025 are too quick to dump their partners, although this is more true for the younger than for the older generations. Alternatively, if you're single, if you can't find anyone even after dating for some time, then your options are to self-improve, or to lower your standards, or to accept being single. That's it. Pick one. Maybe you're annoyed at the other gender, maybe you're even right, but ultimately that doesn't change this reality. It may be easy to say that you'll just be single. However, keep in mind that being alone becomes less and less fun as you grow older. Choosing to be single might be the option that feels best right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the choice that maximizes your overall happiness throughout your lifetime. Yes, it's better to be alone than to be in an awful relationship. However, being alone may be worse than being in an okay yet imperfect relationship, especially as you grow older. Although obviously this is your decision to make. Some people only dated attractive people in the past, got burned and mistakenly concluded that dating is impossible or that the other gender is completely unreasonable. Well, the blunt truth is that beyond a certain age, there are few single, well-adjusted, immediately attractive people available, because those all got snatched up already. And even if they are available, they're rare. So why would they commit to you specifically? Beyond a certain age, if you insist on dating attractive people, and you're not perceived as a very desirable partner yourself, then you might only find people who aren't willing to commit, or people who are dysfunctional. Because the attractive, commitment-minded, well-adjusted people are taken already. But the good news is that if you drop the requirement that they must be immediately attractive, then you may be able to find a commitment-minded, well-adjusted partner. I'm not saying to date a person who is repulsive to you, but well, in earlier generations people managed to marry normal people just fine, and fell in love with them and were attracted to them just fine. Whereas at present relationship rates have fallen off a cliff. Perhaps spend less time looking at attractive people on your screen, because this does warp who you are and aren't attracted to. Or put less weight on immediate attraction and put more weight on who you'll think make an actually good partner. To be blunt, some people are currently being led around by their penis or their vagina when it comes to dating decisions, and those people should stop doing that and should start using their brain or intuition instead. And don't label your emotions as intuition, those are two different things. Yes, I know that the dating situation on Earth sucks, but it's still your responsibility to make the best choices you can, within the situation you're in. Whatever you decide, ultimately you are responsible for your relationships. Responsibility for working towards your goal after we've decided our goal, de-stressed and taken care of our routines and relationships. Then the time has come to take responsibility for whatever goal we decided upon. If your goal seems grand and out of reach, just take small consistent steps towards your goal. You don't need to accomplish it next week. You just need to consistently put in a little bit of work. If this slow and consistent approach doesn't work, just take the plunge. Simply start that business or just move to that more appropriate location. Put yourself in a situation where you have to swim or drown. You can take a lot more than you think you can, and quite possibly you'll just succeed. Even if you fail, you'll most likely be okay and you'll have learned a lot. Waiting for the perfect plan or the perfect circumstances usually doesn't lead to success. Instead, it's the people who simply take action, and then repeatedly get back up when they are knocked down, who ultimately become successful. The master has failed more often than the beginner has even tried. Be careful about getting stuck in a tolerable or comfortable situation, where you just never work towards your dream because it's scary and it could disrupt your comfort. If people are comfortable, and they have neither a critical necessity nor a burning desire to pursue something greater, then it's possible that people just stagnate. Be very careful about this. If small steps don't work, and taking the plunge doesn't work, another method is to not allow yourself orgasms, neither from sex nor from masturbation, until you've reached your goal. This may be a bit uncomfortable, But becoming less comfortable and thereby getting out of stagnation is actually the point. Not having orgasms won't kill you, unless you're Tunia, and it can be quite effective. You can use Jizout's method of visualizing a ball of energy in your stomach, or saying, "There is a ball of energy in my stomach," to digest excessive energy, which includes lust. That should give you energy that will then help you work towards your goal. Or use certain tantric or yoga techniques, such as Uddiyana Bandha or Mula Bandha, to supplement sexual energy, although you may need to find someone who can teach you this. It's completely fine if your goal is something humble, like starting a family and then raising your children well. That's still beautiful and it's still a wonderful contribution. Sure, starting a family won't single-handedly liberate Earth. But no one is demanding that you single-handedly liberate Earth. But what you should do is identify your goal and diligently work towards it, without going into victim or powerlessness mode. Simply working towards your goal, even if it's a humble one, will contribute far more to humanity than you may think. No one can expect that you do more than your best. But you should do your best. And your actual best may be more remarkable than you realize. With love. Urkok.